Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Reiki Women podcasts. My name is Michaela Daystar, and here with me is Bronwen Logan and Carrie Varela. And we are here to continue this lively and ongoing conversation about Reiki and life and the integrations of those things. And today we have landed on the topic of love. What is the relationship between love, relationships, and the system of Reiki? And how can practicing the system of Reiki support us in our endeavors around love and relationships? And this is a really feels like a very beautiful topic to be exploring as we're on the verge of spring. I just looked out my window and the sun just popped through the clouds, and there's birds being adorable and loving each other out there. And it just feels like the right time to have this conversation. So I'd love to open it up to the two of you to see what comes first to heart as you think about this question.
I just want to say something before. It's not spring here, yes, and we're heading into winter, so it's the opposite, but it's just as beautiful for love and fireplaces, cozy. Yes. So that's just my little input there. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and if I can share about the weather in my location, it's like bucketing down rain. We've had these atmospheric rivers. And so technically, I guess an atmospheric river is like a class 1 hurricane. So it's just like rain falling, and it's been falling for nonstop, like 2 days.
So we have the many moods of love represented right here in the form of weather.
So I'm actually still in that cozy fireplace kind of mood.
Oh, you're right.
Nice.
Nice place to be.
Well, Carrie, what comes up for you as you think about the role and the relationship between our experience of love and practicing Reiki?
Yeah, I mean, I think, love is one of the essences of a fundamental human need. We all need love, and we all need to give and receive love. And, the loss of love and felt a shift and change in my relationship was really the first catalyst that got me into Reiki. And so I recognize like the pull and the draw of it. Certainly in my own life, it became almost an all-consuming thing at one point in my life. Was like that quest to find the one, to find that, core relationship. And it took me a lot longer than I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was like, snap the fingers. There's this like meeting somebody magically and it all comes together. And that wasn't my journey. My journey was meeting somebody that I felt really deeply love and connected with. But there was like a fundamental lack of compatibility. And so part of my healing process, part of my awakening process with Reiki was to really recognize that and to finally be willing to look at it and name it as what was true for me. And ultimately led me to end that relationship. And I went into another one that was also quite lovely and had its own strengths and weaknesses. And after like 5 years of really working through, like, again, a fundamental lack of compatibility, we left that relationship as well. And then that finally, like that whole process, there was many single moments in it all, but it opened me up to being like ready for, what is the relationship I'm in today. And we actually just hit our 8-year anniversary and have 2 babies and spawned an offspring and a whole life together. So, and what I'm grateful for is that my spiritual process and my awareness that I really worked through in all of those things was that when I met Jonathan, I really like felt this aha moment, the sensation inside of myself that I could trust, and I knew it, that this was the right person for me. And so that was a beautiful, beautiful blessing. And we rode like a high of complete like hormones and emotional connection and passion for many years in our life. And then, as things evolve and change, I think the thing that I'm carrying with me today is just how to use these skills, these practices from Reiki to keep that love alive and to really step into the power of unconditional love and work through challenges in my marriage and life, because certainly like marriage is not this happily ever after that we have this kind of societal myth. I'm always debunking that almost every day in my relationship because it feels so alive. And to me, my core relationship, my marriage, is like where the rubber meets the road. It's where I bring all of this stuff that I'm learning and embodying through Reiki into life, into my relationship. It is on one hand the most rewarding relationship of my life, but also the most challenging.
Maybe there's a correlation. Who knows? Yeah. Yeah. It's a funny one. I was saying when I thought about this, I was like, oh, that'll be fun, love and relationships. Then I started thinking about it and I went, oh gosh, that's, so I started writing down some things and I thought, oh, it's sort of a heavy subject on the other hand, or can be a heavy subject on the other hand. And, I think about a lot of the things that people say about love and relationships from a spiritual perspective. And a lot of it seems really very hard to feel like it's real. It feels a bit shallow or something, or it feels a bit almost pie in the sky. Like it's almost like what you were saying, Carrie, the happily ever after thing. It's like, well, all you have to do is, align yourself with, someone and, and it's sort of like these ideas. And I think that, because I think exactly what you were saying, Carrie, we never, ever, there is no end point. It's not like, oh, we get here and now everything's great, and nothing is perfect. So we'll meet people and there may be, a lot of things, attraction, whatever, but there may be things in those relationships that aren't perfect. And it's how much of that imperfection can we live with and be happy with, I guess. Yeah, I am no relationship counselor here. So I don't know, in my thoughts seem to come back to what you said at the beginning, Michaela. It's very much about our own self. We are responsible for ourselves. Yeah, we can't be responsible for other people. And when we're in relation, I think to be in my life at any rate, that as I've progressed through my life and worked with the system of Reiki and found myself more, I'm going to use the word aligned just because I used it before, but more in alignment with myself, that, I have a greater clarity of thought and probably a much stronger sense of intuition. I think these are all things that we develop and learn to listen to a lot more in our lives. So listening to those things allows us to let go and to sit back into ourselves rather than to sit, forward going, oh, what is that? Who, and how about that or this or that, so sitting back into that and allowing life, allowing ourselves to be in life. And in that process, meeting people, understanding people, I feel like I have a lot more clarity around that than I used to have. And before we started recording today, we were just talking about this a little bit, and we're saying, our relationship at different times in our lives. What are we looking for? I do think that it's different, if only that my perspective on what I need or want is possibly different. And how I choose to live with that, and what I need to, what I think that I need to be happy. I guess, is probably different. And when I was younger, I think I probably went with the flow for sure, but the flow may not have been the right flow, because the flow was very much aligned with, the wounds that we do have, and not having spent time looking at my own wounds, and not knowing that some things, I guess, are harmful, and what actually is better for me. And not to say that I've got it perfect, but I definitely feel like I have a lot more clarity around my life, and what I need, and that due to that, then what comes to me is much more in alignment with myself and my needs. That's how I feel at the moment, anyway, or today, put it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll pick up with that piece around wounds. I have a long history and background of working through codependence, and spending most of my life until the last 10 years or so, really oriented towards how other people are feeling, and needing other people to feel okay so that I could feel okay, needing other people to affirm me and love me so that I could love me, and really externalizing my feelings and projecting them onto other people, because I couldn't really work through them with myself. And the system of Reiki gives us the antidote to that. Right, just for today, I'm compassionate for myself first, and then from that self-compassion for other people. And I would say that that was, that's where Reiki and my experiences with love and relationships of all kind really come together, and continue to work through and integrate in my life, beginning with that most essential relationship with myself, because I really didn't have a full and complete, robust relationship with myself, like at the time when I started working with Reiki and a variety of other practices, kind of during a time of great transition in my life, as many of us come to this practice through times of great transition and challenge, and building. And I'll say, well, it isn't. It is definitely rebuilding my relationship with myself, but I would say that, my true relationship with myself really hadn't been clear and healthy and authentic since like early childhood. And so for me, my experience was that I was building it for the first time,
Mm.
an actual in-depth relationship with myself, and, using Reiki as part of the roadmap, the guide for getting there. And, spending that time doing that work, going through that process of focusing, really for the first time on my relationship with myself, was the thing that began to shift the quality of my relationships with other people, really beginning with my relationship with my kids and other close family members, even my relationship with my ex-husband, like keeping that on a positive place. Um, and then, from there flowing out to any other relationship that I've had, that it has to keep coming back to my relationship with myself, or all of those old wounds, all of those old behaviors and habits and fears and responses that are habituated because of, constricted places in our lives. They can resurface, they can come back through when we're not, staying focusing our attention on that relationship with ourselves. And I have a good friend and colleague, Hallie Miglietta, who her business is called Love School. And she's spent many years developing, her own process and understanding, and eventually curriculum around self-love, and around, what it really takes and what it really means to love ourselves well, to really just for today and every day have compassion for ourselves. And then from there, okay, now that we have that relationship, now we turn towards our relationships with other people. So I'll just give a little plug, a little shout out to Hallie at Love School. Maybe we'll drop her information in the show notes, because, working through a variety of modalities, we can really prioritize that first relationship. And we really have to, if we want to have that sort of healthy, robust relationship with others that can survive past that initial intense connection phase that you were talking about, Carrie, and it can survive all of the points of disagreement and all of the points of tension that inevitably come up between people, that we have to have that solid foundation, that rooted place to come back to. And we have to have a spacious mind and open to possibilities. And we have to have a compassionate, connected heart. You know, the territory of our heart has to be well supported. And that's the map that we're given in the system of Reiki, to get ourselves rooted, the strong foundation, to open up our mind and our perspectives to possibility, to spaciousness, and then to really tend the territory of the heart, which is that place of compassionate connection. And so, we're really well situated to be in good relationship when we're working with this practice.
Mm. I know at different times when we talk about, what Reiki is, so definition is spiritual energy, or, whatever your definition is. And, but when we come down to more like meaning of what Reiki is, often it comes back to Reiki is love. And that's all those things that you just mentioned, Michaela, and that being able to be open and free and clear and grounded, and it's all those things that when we can be like that with ourselves, just like appreciate who we are, and appreciate our place in the world, and feel calm and here, then we can share that, and that is such a beautiful thing to share with other people. And it is attractive, it is something that people love. People want to be around that, so it's like, if I'm really horrible and nasty, and people don't want to be around that, right? I don't want to be around that. So we can see quite clearly how, like, something like the system of Reiki, which is saying, don't be angry. Don't worry, don't do these things. Live in a different way. It's giving these guidelines on how you can live. Then living like that gives you a lot of peace and joy, and people want to share that peace and joy with you, whether it be in a, like a personal relationship, or, like a platonic relationship, or whatever, just being around you is a great joy. And so the more that we can be that, we can see that that's what that means. And there's the other thing I think that I was I've mentioned it before, and this is not so much about Reiki, but it's about relationships, and that is Alain de Botton, the guy from the School of Life. And he said that to have a successful relationship, you need to treat the other person like a 4-year-old. And the reason behind that is that we are much more caring and loving for 4-year-olds than we are often for adults. For adults, we're like, oh, get up, come on. Where a 4-year-old, you go, oh, you darling, come on, I'll give you a hand, and I'll be here for you. Yeah. So it is just us allowing ourselves to be loving rather than cutting ourselves off and saying, well, you deal with your shit. And, I do believe that we need to work on ourselves 100%. Yeah. When I got divorced, I spent a long time doing amazing things for myself, really looking after myself. And I know how much that has benefited me, being there for myself. Yeah. And I just needed that so much, so strongly. And it changed everything for me. If I'd have kept going in the same direction that I was going, it would have been a very unhealthy, unhappy existence. So really understanding that we need to find out about ourselves. We talk about when we, like I said, I read all this stuff about, relationships. Oh, you've got to be on the same wavelength. No, I need to be on the same wavelength with me. Yeah. I need to know what is going on for me and why I feel certain things, and how I can shift that, or what I can do to make my day better, and to be Yeah, just to be, I'm going to say happy, but it's a funny word, isn't it? So to be joyful and to see the awe in life. Yeah.
I love all those words. I wish I would have learned that a long time ago, that you have to treat your partner like he or she is 4 years old. That would be really helpful. Would have been really helpful many times in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sparks for me is that, there's that famous Marianne Williamson quote. It's like, our task is not to seek for love, but to remove all of these barriers that we have within ourselves to be in touch with the love inside of us. And yeah, that's definitely, I think, the practice of Reiki. It helps us really notice where we might have some vulnerability, some traumas, some um, wounds in the world of love that prevent us from real intimacy and connectedness. And I know for me, I feel like my relationship, it's the most intimate relationship, not necessarily just for the sex part, but also because that I need to feel seen, and I need to both be willing to be seen by somebody else. And sometimes um we can put ourselves on this pedestal as perfect beings or whatever. We might feel like that impulse within spiritual communities, or spiritual wellness communities, and obviously that's just totally impossible. So I think for me, is some of the work of Reiki is just to really be with um triggers, my insecurities, my vulnerabilities that really don't prevent me from enjoying and savoring that real, genuine intimacy. And I think that and also communication. Communication is so huge.
Yeah.
Like
That's
so
something
many.
you learn, right? These are things about different ages. That's something you learn, I think. Yeah.
And like an attitude of non-judgment as well, because I think some of the challenges with communication is we hold people to their words. No, you said that and you mean that. And the world of Reiki has helped me to realize that my mood and my state of being like fluctuates all the time, so that like I can't hold people to feeling one way, a certain way, in the moment, even if like emotions are high or something. You have to see people for their heart, and that's really something that Reiki has inspired me to do. Like, really not take people for this like surface level words, actions, but really see their heart. And that's absolutely something I'm working on and trying and letting go of shit. Like there's so much stuff and so much drama, so much agitations that can happen in a relationship. And so it can really build. And I'm also not trained as a relationship counselor, but I've always had this vision of like bringing a couple together in a room who's having troubles and just giving Reiki to both of them so that they can just kind of get in the same wavelength, because that's also a huge challenge, especially in long-term relationships. You grow into a certain area of your life, and perhaps your partner grows with you in that space, and perhaps they don't. And there's been lots of times where my partner is not exactly where I am, and vice versa. And so we have to be always compassionate and reach across the distance with each other. And I think also a huge challenge in our modern life is that some relationships, we were given this, paradigm dynamic that we're supposed to be together for the rest of our lives. And in our modern life, we have the freedom to make that choice for ourselves and decide whether or not we do want to stay in a relationship for the rest of our lives. Like that's not just, the one size fits all answer. And so the inquiry of knowing yourself, being true to your way within Reiki definitely helps us, let go perhaps of past relationships, hurt and trauma, pain, the pain of disconnection, which I think is quite profound, can be quite profound. And it can be even deeper, a deeper sense of disconnection from love itself, or healing oneself after rejection is a big part of, I think, what Reiki can also support people
Yeah.
people to do. So, yeah, those are some of my thoughts. Yeah, sounds like something stirring for you. So please share.
Oh, well, I just, first of all, I have done that, Carrie. I have had at least twice couples who were in tension with each other come for a shared session. And it was good, and not necessarily because it brought them into like nice, gentle alignment, but because it's settled their nervous system and kind of got them present enough that they could start to really talk about it. And so it actually turned into quite a bit of open conflict. But but that was good, right? Like that needed to happen. There was, it created a container for that to happen. And so it really was a place of appreciation for what can happen when we allow ourselves to make more room for what we're actually feeling, and part of what can happen is a lot of expression of those things. So that's one of the things that we prepare ourselves for as Reiki practitioners, that all manner of things can come through. And part of what you were saying also, Carrie, really brought home something that was already on my mind, which is that if we're going to talk about love and relationships, then we also have to talk about heartbreak. That inside of any relationship, there's going to be heartbreak. Either because the relationship ended, or because there were hurts that happened in the context of it, or there's recognizing those places of misalignment that are just never going to come together. And maybe we stay in relationship, but we have to let go of a certain vision that we had for what might happen in that relationship. When we're talking about relationships with our kids, they're going to grow up and leave us one day, right? And there's heartbreak there. And so, the reality is that anytime we love anything, or anyone, that there's going to be grief and loss and heartbreak associated with that experience. They're just, they're just intimately connected, and that this is part of the full range of our human experience. It's a good thing. But it can be so, so, so hard when we're not prepared to make, and we don't feel like we have enough room for that feeling of heartbreak. And, again, Reiki being such a powerful way to navigate that kind of territory. My last relationship ended after 7 years, and it was incredibly painful. And there was a lot of heartbreak, and it was the kind of feeling that could have been really like too much, like just too overwhelming a feeling in the past. And, I was just so grateful to have this practice that literally makes me feel like there's more space inside, that literally makes me feel like this big emotion that feels like it's going to just burst out of me, like that I can put more space around it, and can soften the tension and the constriction around those feelings, and allow for other additional feelings to come in. And in doing that, I was able to, really retain some of the feelings of love and connection with this person, and retain a form of relationship with this person that's different than it was, while at the same time still allowing myself to grieve and to be sad and to be, to feel all of the feelings, and to be angry sometimes, and to have a way to process that. And we need that. We need strategies for integrating and making enough room for everything that we feel. Because if we're going to love anything, there's going to be a lot of associated feelings that come through. And the alternative is not to love. And that's no way to live, right? We are, I always feel a little weird about using the word designed. But we have come to be a creature that needs to experience a full range of emotions in order to feel whole. And there are many things that can cause us to shut down those feelings, to constrict around them. And so we have this practice, and humanity has many practices. The system of Reiki is one of them, that allows us to be in our humanity with all of the feelings that we have, and integrate them and digest them, metabolize them, move them through our system so that they don't stay, stagnant in any one place for too long.
Well, there's a lot there, isn't there? When you started talking, I was just thinking about the students that have studied the system of Reiki. I'm thinking mainly of women here who have said to me, I don't know how I'm going to go back to my partner.
Mm.
And this is where I was feeling when I was thinking about this earlier. I was thinking, how difficult that is, because it's that thought of I'm doing something for myself, because I need to change. We need to always be, working on ourselves to some degree, right? And so I'm changing, shifting, but my partner is not changing, shifting. And I don't know how to be with that person if that's not happening.
That is
And
such a
oh my goodness, when you hear that, and and the thought of that is very difficult. And I'm not sure I have an answer for that, but I'm just thinking of when we're working with the system of Reiki. Yes, we are working on ourselves, and sometimes that does bring us to places that can be uncomfortable with people around us, especially people who are in close relationships with us. So that was one thought I was thinking of. I don't have an answer for that, by the way. I think we need to keep growing. And, I used to say to my child, accept or change, right? So I guess they could accept the situation, or they could change the situation. So there's those two things. Another thing that I was thinking of when someone was talking, I'm not sure who, but just about words. And, when we're working on ourselves, the words that we use, the stories that we tell, the relationships that we're in, and, we're this sort of couple, or I'm this sort of person, or all this stuff is just going on in here, right? And it's not necessarily stuff that we verbalize. And some of it's negative. Yeah. So it's like, oh, I'm no good at this. I don't know. Oh, this person's going to leave me, or whatever whatever these thoughts are that are going on in our head. These are not things that we share, but they're things that just are here inside of us. So we can see why it's so important that we work on ourselves. I was reading a beautiful thing about Shintoism the other day that was talking about, because it's an influence on the founder of the system of Reiki, so an influence on our practice. And definitely the chanting that we do with the Kodadama, that is a Shinto practice. The Shinto believe that inside of us we have this spirit, and the spirit, it is a kami. And when we work with words, we are inviting the kami to support us in moving through things, right? So when we're chanting, it's like inviting the kami to help us to progress and become a better person, right? So change, shift stuff, and the kami is there helping us with that. So when we chant, then we are working through things, we're shifting things. But I think when we're just talking, it's the same. And, I don't see that much difference between the two, except one is more intentful, there's more intent. But when we're talking, or even just thinking, we are being us, we are being something. And so whatever we're shifting through, are we helping ourselves by the thoughts that are going on in our head? So are the thoughts in our head when we're in a relationship, are they thoughts that are going to help me be the best person that I can possibly be? And we have the precepts there to support us with that, with those thoughts. But thinking about that, realizing what the thoughts are that are going on in our head, and how that affects us and turns us into whatever being we are in as ourselves, but also in relationship to others. Allowing those thoughts to be something that our spirit, our kami, can shift and work with, and help us be the best that we can possibly be, I think is a really beautiful and aware way of existing.
And that's, the words that we use, with and towards ourselves is one of the clearest ways that we can tell whether or not we're being compassionate for ourselves, right? Oftentimes when we're out of compassion with ourselves, that shows up as negative self-talk, and using words in our thoughts and towards ourselves and about ourselves that is unkind and unloving. And so, yeah, I love that connection, that the words that we say, even in our own thoughts and to ourselves, and then by extension to other people, are bearers of that precept and are bearers of that spirit inside that is ultimately connected. And those points of disconnection or forgetting that we are connected, so much get reflected in the words that we say. And so, yeah, I think that's a really powerful point for us to land on. Carrie, any final thoughts for you?
I think when it comes to just attracting love and attracting relationships, that right relationship for you, I think a good reminder is that, every relationship is so unique. And when we can, something I've been really focusing on in my own life is when we work through our grief and um, our vulnerabilities, our traumas, our insecurities around love and relationship, um, we hold more space for something beautiful to arise. That, I think when you're dating, it's like it can be like riding the highs and lows of love can be really, really challenging. And I always try to, remind my clients who are doing that like every new relationship is a new door. And that our self-talk and our the way we hold that the highs and lows of possibility really does make a difference in terms of attracting and finding love. And I think a lot of times, if you've had a lot of trauma related to connection, to finding a loving relationship, or have like constantly been faced with rejection or the fear of rejection, that we really have to work strongly on your own inner relationship and your own inner dialogue with that. And also properly grieving those losses of times where you really want or long for a connection that it didn't happen. That vulnerability that can arise when you really put yourself out there to somebody else and it doesn't seem like it's a good fit, or that person rejects you. It leaves us, I think, a healthy scar. I think for myself, like fear of abandonment is big in my world, and I have to work with that. In my relationship, but I can imagine it's so much harder when we're looking for love and relationship. So. And like you guys were saying, it's just like holding that beautiful, loving energy. It takes work, because if you lived in the reality of like, rejection or feeling of abandonment in the world of love, it's hard to hold that possibility. And also to not let like the projections of what relationships should look like this like amazing, sexual connection, passionate connection. Like, I think that's maybe true in our 20s and 30s and maybe into our 40s and stuff, but then it's like a relationship and our own hormones and everything are totally different. So not setting expectations for ourselves as to like what a relationship should look like, what chemistry should look like at the beginning or even in the middle of the relationship. And so me, that comes back to just being true to yourself, being true to what you know in your heart. We all have a unique relationship to love, and we all have a unique story as it relates to love. And so when we can be clear and have that intuitive sense of like, what am I trying to learn? What do I want to learn in the world of love is helpful. And even naming that, and I think at one point in my search for love and relationship, I just named it to the universe. I said, universe, I need a partner in my life in order to feel fulfilled and to feel like I'm achieving my purpose. And that like one of the things that is going to fulfill me is having a lasting, loving relationship that matters to me. And it was in some ways a contract, to the universe. The universe is like, okay, you said you wanted this, and so you got to go for it. So I think when we're lost in like this wishy-washy world of waiting for something to happen and it's not happening, it's really also about the languaging that you have with the universe. And on the other side of that was like I said to the universe, I want this relationship, and as a result, I want to feel that stability in my life so I can really serve other people. And that's what I felt like I needed. And that definitely has come true in my life.
Yeah, That's lovely.
You know that you are the universe. So it's like a contract with yourself, right?
Yes,
It's
yes.
really, it's like it's self-talk.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful because that's what we started with, wasn't it, in this conversation?
Yeah.
That it's very much about our self work and who we are as to what actually happens in our lives.
Absolutely. Well, that's a lovely full circle for this conversation, and really appreciated getting to jump into this topic and be in the uncertainty of what would want to emerge from this topic. And I'm really glad that we did. So, friends listening, we would love to hear about your experiences with Reiki and love and relationships. How has the system of Reiki served you in navigating relationships with yourself, with others, with the people in your life? Let us know. Drop those comments down below. Share this video with somebody who could use a little bit of perspective on their own experiences with love. And check out Love School. We'll put that link down below if you want some specific targeted help in building your self-love capacity. So friends, thank you for joining us. We will be back with you next week for the next episode of Reiki Women Podcasts. Until then, be well, be provisioned, and we love you. Bye-bye.
Bye. That was hard.
Oh, I mean, it's just such a simple little topic, just this easy
I
little
felt
talk.
like at the end, I felt like saying, hey, by the way, you don't have to be in a relationship. I mean, I choose to be in a relationship, yeah? So then I choose the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever, right? Okay, I'm happy. But you don't have to be in a relationship. It almost feels like it feels like you have to do it.
Well, and I think we touched on different types of relationships, like we're going to be in relationships with people unless we're a hermit. Right? So it's like, there's romantic relationship, which I'm not in right now, but would like to be. And then there's every other relationship in our life. So it's all in there. And I think that, emphasizing relationship with ourselves, was where we landed. So feel good about it.
I know. And, it's that feeling that you're not good enough if it's not right.
Yeah, and just internalizing rejection. I feel like that's one thing that I've really seen people who really are serial daters and never been able to really find somebody to commit to this stuff and whether they mean to or not, they just subconsciously have kind of internalized something. And that's so hard. It's just so hard to deal with because just all such beautiful people. They have so much to offer.
That's right.
And we in another context, this relationship certainly could have gone, or this conversation certainly could have gone to past lives and contracts. And I do feel like people sometimes they need to sort out really what they want. What do they want out of this life? What do they want in the realm of love? And that was kind of
what I was saying, clarity, right? Yeah.
And then because a lot of times too, it's I realized at one point I was just really jealous of my sister. So sister's marriage, she had this the whole paradigm of how I was raised was you kiss at the altar, you meet somebody, you just stay with them for the rest of your life. That's your thing. That's how it works. And she had that, and I always thought that was what I was supposed to be doing, or that was what I was told to be doing. And then it was only until I realized I didn't want that. Never wanted that. It wasn't important to me. Then I realized I don't have to hold on to those feelings.
Yeah.
Maybe we can add a postscript.
I was just gonna say, there was a lot of wisdom in this little post-show conversation. So, maybe we'll leave this part in, and listeners, you get to eavesdrop on the little bit of our conversation that happens when the lights go off on the recording. So I elect that we leave this part in because I think that was cool. some good gems.
But I look at you, Michaela, and because of this whole subject, and I think you seem like someone to me who has a lot in her life, right? Am I right?
There's a lot going on. Yeah.
Yeah. And I see
I also
that.
have a very slow paced life too, though. So it depends on,
Yeah.
I think a lot is relative, you know?
Right. Okay. Because I just see, like, you make all this stuff and you go to this and you do, and I just think, God, I just, how to manage all that. It seems like you have a very full life in a sense, right? And I do understand about, you know, wanting relationships and all of that, because I made a decision that I would have a relationship because I always said I didn't want to be like my mother, who got divorced at the age of 44 and never had another relationship, right? And I said, that's just not me. That is definitely not who I want to be. So, and I realized that nothing was going to be perfect. Maybe there's that thing that maybe we should have talked about, that it's okay in this very moment. It's okay as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's exactly where I'm at, right? It's like, and again, the system of Reiki, uh, I'm okay. Like I like my own company. I do have a very full life. I have a lot of very fulfilling relationships. I'm pretty introverted, so I don't so a lot actually is like not a lot, but it's like there, I have 3 or 4 very fulfilling relationships, and then I have a lot of community that uh, that just kind of fills the spaces of my life with a lot of good-heartedness. And I'll have these moments like at the end of the day, that it's like, there's pieces of this life that I just want to share with somebody who's just like right here, and it's like, it's okay that that person is not right here, it's okay. Like ultimately it is okay. And I still want for that, so it's like it's both. And again, making more room inside for all of it, like it'd be nice to be cuddled up with someone and just talking through all of the richness of our day and hearing about the richness of that person's day and just being in that sharing of things, I don't have that right now. So, it's a sadness. It's like I've stopped using the word whole. I think that we use that language like I have this hole, this emptiness, and I need someone else to fill that hole. Like I've stopped using that language because I think that's actually quite dysfunctional language. So it's
and
not
I
a
don't
whole.
see you that way.
Yeah.
I
mean,
not
there's
like
moments for sure.
Mm.
But for the most part, yeah, just trying to like move away from like language that suggests incompletion, like incompleteness,
Yeah.
unwholeness.
Yeah.
Because I don't actually believe that to be true. So yeah, it's a wanting that isn't fulfilled, but it's not a whole. Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Wow.
Well, there's the postscript for you folks. Little insight into our life. I just share my business. I don't even care. It's fine. Good. It's good. I'm a open book. It's totally fine. All right. Well,
All right.
thank you.
Wow. Ain't love grand? Maybe that
Love
could
is
be
grand.
our ending.
Yeah, that's our end. That's our end point. Love is
What's
grand.
the end point?
That
Ain't
love
love
is grand.
Love is grand.
Beginning with this love. This love right here. Love, 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 love. Yes.
Love in all of its forms, not just that one-to-one intimate relationship. So many different layers.
All right. 1, 2, 3. One love,
One
one
heart.
heart. Let's get together and be all right. Everybody now. One love.
One heart, give thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will feel all right.
Yeehaw.
Well, we're not winning any Grammys anytime soon, but we do have a pretty good podcast. And finally, friends, just a reminder that our first round of our Reiki Women podcast, that did not come out right.
Blooper.
No pressure.
And friends, and friends, just one last reminder that we have started our new practitioner circle, the Embodying Reiki with RWP practice group. It is going to begin the first Sunday in April. And Yes, indeed. We will be leading practices that relate to topics from the previous month. And so this very topic about love and relationships might come up. You never know. And there will be links to join that practice group down below. We hope to see you there.
Yeah, and if you drop by our group, so Embodying Reiki, which is on our Facebook page, Reiki Women Podcasts, if you drop by the group, we will be chatting about every one of these podcasts afterwards. So there will be some little things there as well. So do drop by, do join us, and we'll see you there. Bye. For the 1,000th time. Bye.
So many endings to this podcast. We're going to just keep ending it over and over again.